I'm not sure who's on. Hey, Yaja, if you're still on, can you hear me? Just type in the chat box if you can. Awesome. Okay, we'll start in a few minutes. Can you see the screen yet with my little Amy Poehler Jingle Bells meme? You might have to press the play button. Hey, Sandy. Can you guys see the screen, the little Mary Peri-Menopause? Awesome. If you can't see it, you might have to refresh or press the play button. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Looks like we have about 7 people so far. If you're not shy, feel free to join the chat. Hi. The instructions for joining the chat are up above. They're right here too. And if for some reason, if anybody can't hear me, sometimes my computer's like permanently muted, so unmute. You can move around the chat box. There's those 2 little double boxes. Just click on that and then you can kind of move it around so it's beside the screen. That's what I'm doing. So you don't have to scroll underneath the screen. And with this Chatwing app, you do have to log in. I just logged in through my Facebook account, so it just led me right to it. So I could just go to it. If you're not comfortable with that, you can just create a Chatwing account. And we got 1 more minute, and looks like we've got about 9 people so far. Awesome. Hello, everybody. All right, it's 7 on the nose. Thank you so much for coming to the Mary Peri-Menopause webinar. That's my little funny name, and I love this Amy Poehler picture. It just like, to me, it sums up menopause. It's like, oh, really? She's got that little wicked sense of humor. Before we start, hopefully everybody's able to access the chat. If not, there's instructions above and right here. So you don't have to participate in the chat. We will be doing questions at the end. For the most part, I'll be talking through, so I won't be able to respond to the chat continuously. But towards the end, we'll save some time for questions. And just as a little health medical disclaimer, this webinar is for informational purposes only and is not to be substitute for professional medical advice. So let's get started. Is anybody right now or recently experiencing any perimenopause or hormonal imbalance that you want to share? You can just put it in the chat if you'd like. Everything is in safe hands here. We're not going to be talking about it, but for me, about a year ago, I had hot flashes and night sweats, and I started gaining weight. And by exploring what was going on in my own body, that's why I came up with sharing this information with you all. So anybody have any hormonal stories they would like to share before we get going? Okay. All right, so what is menopause? Menopause is a natural biological process. It's supposed to happen to women in midlife, whatever that age may be. The average age of menopause is between 45 and 55. And Peri-menopause can happen in our 30s. And of course, if you've had either a hysterectomy or an oophorectomy, then you are put into menopause early. So, so this can really be experienced at any age, depending on the intervention and what's going on in your life. The duration, this is what shocked me. The span, like some people were like, oh yeah, I had hot flashes for like 6 months. And when I was doing my research, I found that the perimenopause and menopausal symptoms that are noticeable to women can last up to 10 years or longer. I was like, what? That's crazy. So, and the common symptoms are things like hot flashes and night sweats and heavy bleeding or irregular periods or missed periods. Swollen breasts, migraines, headaches, you name it. The list is a mile long. So we don't really want to spend, we want to spend as little time as possible not suffering through these symptoms. The conventional approach to menopause is usually just to use synthetic hormone replacement. We're going to talk a little bit about the functional approach to menopause, which looks at all of the body's systems and looks at what our hormones are doing in balance with one another. Hey, Teresa. So we're going to get into that a little bit next. Can everybody see the screen, just so make sure we're following along? Right now I'm on hormonal harmony. Everybody okay? Okay, so I've got a little infographic here, just talking about how, from a functional nutrition and medical perspective, we look at hormones. And there are more than these glands involved in hormone production, but these, what I found in my research, have a lot to do with how our symptoms manifest. So over on the left, we have thyroid, and we have thyroid hormones that we produce, and those are responsible for our metabolism, so how we burn fat, and all really, metabolism basically just means all the functions of the body, so from a cellular level. And there are thyroid receptors on every cell of our body. Then we have the adrenals. And by the way, in case I think everybody knows this, but the thyroid is a gland, it's a butterfly-shaped gland that sits in the center of your throat. And it produces basically T4 and T3 are the two main hormones we look at. And T4 gets converted to T3 from a thyroid perspective. The adrenals are located on the top of our kidneys. They're two walnut-shaped glands, and they secrete cortisol and adrenaline, which are hormones that are produced in response to stress. And they also can produce some of our sex hormones like DHEA, estrogen, and progesterone. Then we have our ovaries, which produce estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, and testosterone, as well as other hormones, but those are the ones that determine our fertility and our sexual function. And then our pancreas, which I almost didn't put in here, but I think it has it fits, because the pancreas helps us with not only digestive enzymes, but it also helps us with managing blood sugar using a hormone that we are all familiar with called insulin. And we're going to go into how these hormones all work together. And if there's an imbalance in how we're living or eating or experiencing life, then they can have impacts and compensate and affect their production of certain hormones. For example, the adrenals are one that I really want to kind of focus on. Premenopausal, the adrenals produce about 35% of our hormones. But postmenopausal, they produce almost half of our hormones. And what happens is when we're stressed out, and I'm going to get into stress a little bit later, if there's excess cortisol produced by the adrenals, it blocks the hormone progesterone. estrogen and progesterone have to be in balance. If they're not, then, and usually it's progesterone that gets low, then we can suffer from estrogen dominance. And that's where all those symptoms come from that we talked about earlier. So when the high cortisol blocks progesterone, it can also affect our gut. So, and I'm going to get into the gut too in a little bit. So, and then sometimes when we get so stressed out, our adrenals get very taxed. It's called adrenal exhaustion, something I've had as well. And then the progesterone gets diverted from the ovaries to support cortisol production. And that's another way that we get like a double whammy of reduced progesterone. And that's where we get those estrogen dominance symptoms of hot flashes, PMS, migraines, night sweats, heavy bleeding, etc. So everything has to work in balance. I guess that's my point there. In harmony. From a functional medicine perspective, this is the testing that I use and I've had done on me as well. It's a 4-point saliva test. So basically you spit into these vials in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, and at night before bed. And then the lab sends you your results, and it's based on your cycle. And then it looks for normal rhythms and normal levels based upon the average. So this is a great way to see if you are estrogen dominant, if you're low in progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and how your cortisol rhythms are going. So with this, then you can look at natural and bioidentical hormones to help support your hormone balance. Another thing that we like to look at, and you can actually ask your normal conventional doctor for this test, and he usually will look at this, would be your blood glucose and your vitamin D. There's other things we'd like to look at as well, but if you've got high blood sugar, that's another thing where, remember we talked about the pancreas secreting insulin. If there's high blood sugar, then you can become insulin resistant. And when that happens, that's when we can get into fat, difficulty losing fat, weight gain, and cortisol imbalance that then affects your sex hormones. Vitamin D is really important for thyroid function, and we like to see levels between 50 and 80 in functional medicine and functional nutrition. But some doctors are fine if you're 30, but you don't want to just be okay, like within the normal limits. You want to be optimal so that you're feeling and functioning your best. So when you get to your doctor and you look at your vitamin D levels, then that's the aim that I would be looking for, is a 50 to 80. Another thing that's important when you're going to your doctor is to go to request a full thyroid panel. So most doctors just look at TSH, and then they say if you're in the range, and if you are, then you're good to go, no thyroid issues. The problem there is it's not looking at how your thyroid is functioning through all the systems of your body. So we want to have a full thyroid panel, and here are the markers that we like to look at. This free and total T3 and T4, reverse T3, and TPO antibodies along with TG antibodies, which help determine if you have Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid disease. Is everybody doing okay? I just wanted to share a little bit about my journey. So I was in corporate America for 20 years. I worked for Bank of America. I was a senior vice president. I had, at times, a very stressful job. I kind of started in college and worked my way up. And I, probably about 8 or 9 years ago, just had this pull, like things weren't right. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroid disease, which is autoimmune hypothyroidism, which means that my thyroid was underactive. So they put me on medication, and I was like, okay. And I just kind of kept plugging along. I tried to negotiate with my organization to, try to not travel as much. I had 3 kids. I still do. And it just wasn't working for me. I had this pull to do something different. And I'd always studied health and nutrition from my early 20s. I was kind of a health nut in my circle. A few of my friends who are on the line can attest. And I decided while I was still employed to get my health coaching certification. I got some energy healing certifications and just kept like kind of exploring like different fields. And finally in 2010, I took the leap and I left my job. I got my master's in nutrition, my MS in nutrition, and I also became a registered yoga teacher. And I've just been never turning back. Yes, it was hard to leave the money and the benefits and the status to some extent, but I just feel like I'm more of myself. I think to stay in that position, I just couldn't be me. It just was trying to fit into the organization versus expressing who I am. And really I have this pull to help people and to uncover, kind of the mysteries of illness and really get to the root cause. So I left. I mentioned the Hashimoto's on my health journey. I also, through the transition, I even though I made the outward change in terms of what I was doing, I still had a lot of inner stress and turmoil about money, and about like, what am I going to do? And like a lot of control issues because I'm a recovering control freak. So my health journey actually still continues. I've come a long way. But it's something that I'm just constantly learning and hopefully helping other people who are kind of going through similar transitions in their life as well. As far as my menopause or my perimenopausal experience, I was a little worried when my periods stopped. I used to be like clockwork. And it was last year, actually, when I first started yoga teacher training, and my period stopped and I started getting hot flashes. And this woman that I was going with also started getting hot flashes. And at first it was like, okay, well, lost my period and that's no big deal. But these hot flashes and night sweats and like I was missing sleep, and I'm going to go over how important sleep is. And so I started getting all these symptoms, and at one point my hot flashes were coming like all, every minute on the minute. I was like hot flashing all day. And it was awful. And the night sweats were like drenching, and it was just terrible. And, the thing I hated the most was gaining weight. I'm like, what? So, and my libido was low. So I had these symptoms. I was like the heat miser. I love that guy. But I hooked up with my naturopath. I did a ton of research on my own. We kind of worked together trying to troubleshoot and try different things. And with some changes in diet and how I was kind of perceiving my stressors and some supplements, my symptoms went away. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm, preventing menopause. It just means that I found some hormonal balance and my symptoms aren't unbearable like they were. In fact, I really, other than still missing periods, I have no symptoms. So I'm pretty happy about that. And what I want to do is share with you all what I know, so that hopefully you can avoid symptoms or just find your hormonal balance as well. Hi, Michelle and Kelly. All right, so these are the 5 factors to manage perimenopause or menopause or hormone imbalance. At the top of the list to me is mindset. How we think about menopause is really messed up in this country, in our culture particularly. And I'm going to go into that in a sec. Second is gut health. If your gut isn't working, nothing's working. So we'll talk about that. Then we've got our detox liver, very connected to the gut, but kind of a separate animal. And then our foundational parts of this 5 factors infographic is diet and lifestyle. So we're going to dig a little deeper into each of those areas. And with each one, we're going to have a little bit of sharing. And if you have your worksheets printed or just a piece of paper with a pen, for each area, we're going to you can take notes, of course. And then I'd like you to work on some actions. I'm going to have some recommendations and action, at least one, that you can do in each area to help shift you towards more balance, to feeling better, to being the best you. Sound good? All right, so mindset. When I saw this quote in last month's issue of Vogue, I was like, yes, I love it. This is from, the beautiful Angelina Jolie. She had to have an ovectomy, which means her ovaries were removed because of her genetic predisposition for cancer. And she went into early menopause. And I love how she says she now feels grounded as a woman. And in some cultures, as I was kind of going through my research, the women that are menopausal can actually serve in high positions like shamans and high priestesses because they are revered as having more wisdom. And another thing that I found out was there are countries and cultures and tribes that don't even know what hot flashes are. They don't even have it in their language because it doesn't exist, because they live a balanced life. So this mindset and knowing that there's an alternative, to me, is just so empowering. In our culture, though, media makes menopause a joke, like the television shows. You've got the shoebox granny here. She's funny and all, but what it does is it kind of makes us feel a little bit of shame and this negativity around menopause and this transition and aging in general, and especially for women. You ever notice how like when women age, they're like scrutinized and criticized, and when men age with their little salt and pepper hair, they're like, oh, they're so hot, So this is just the way our culture is. And then I was doing some research and I found a study that was done actually in Reuters that said that cultural attitudes affect how women experience menopause. And so that kind of ties into the last slide. And that's why the Japanese and the Hunza don't have hot flashes, but the Americans, UK, probably Europe, other more modern, quote, cultures are hot flash city. Yes, also their diet for sure, Sandy. So, the deeper message, my truth bomb here, is that severity of symptoms can be related to past unresolved issues and areas where we're not in alignment with our truth or our calling. And this quote from Reclaiming the Menstrual Matrix, Tamara Slayton, I love it. The natural expression of personal power and wisdom available to women during menopause is thwarted and frustrated in our culture. This surge of energy is subsequently turned inward on oneself and can result in many unpleasant symptoms such as hot flashes, depression, general feeling of being lost and unable to find a new and vital identity. It's awful, but it doesn't have to be this way. So I would like you all, I think we've got 10 people here, to reflect or share what might be happening or has happened in your life that might feel like a compromise. Where are you not aligned with your needs? And this is a tough question. Do you love yourself? And you know what? The answer might be no right now. I know it has been for me, and I'm always working on it. But just reflect on it. You can, if you have your worksheet printed, you can write notes or just use a piece of paper under the mindset section. We're going to have 5 sections. So just reflect on that, like how you're viewing yourself. And also, are you wearing yourself too thin? Are you taking on too much? Are you not aligned with who you really are? And here's our mindset makeover. So if you're not already, start living your truth. It can just be little baby steps. It can just be how you're thinking. If you can, try to develop a transition strategy. The transition strategy can just be in your mind, or it can be actually like reframing the way your relationships are structured. It can be either reframing or a transition strategy out of a stressful job or a job that's not true to your calling. It can be an obligation that you've committed yourself to, or you should have said no. or a situation that's draining you. Whatever it is, see if you can find, even if it's just a small way of thinking or actual things that you can come up with in terms of transition strategy. Spend time with uplifting people like I do with everybody here. Some of you, sorry, I don't know everybody, but spend time with uplifting people who live the way you aspire to live. Are they enjoying life? Do they have fun? Are they laughing? Are they pursuing their dreams? Those are the people you want to be around. You know, it doesn't mean you don't want to help people that are suffering, but make sure that you've got a balance of being around people that also lift you up. Get on the no train. Stop saying yes to things you hate. Stop being a martyr. Stop being a pleaser. Don't give two turds. I'm not going to swear, but I love the hashtag 0Fs. I just think that's great. You know, I've grown up, you know, kind of worrying about what people think my whole life. It's something I still struggle with. You know, making sure everything looks perfect. So, and you know, I've got friends that like are martyrs and pleasers, and it's okay. Just look at it and realize that you're doing that for some reason. Maybe it's just a habit, or maybe you get something out of that, and see if you can work on shifting. So you're saying get on the no train, but also say yes to you, especially for any introverts out there like me. You know, you got to get out there. You got to, you know, do what you love, but you need to be around people. You can be by yourself as well, but say yes to things that you love to do. And if menopausal symptoms come or have come, or if you feel out of balance with your hormones, be light about it. It's not the end of the world. And know that you're worthy of love and self-care, and take care of yourself. All right, so either to your worksheet or to your notes, commit to at least one action you can take towards shifting your mindset. I'll scroll back here. Here's kind of my list of things. If you guys can see my screen, just take a few minutes and see if there's just one little thing. It might just be, you know, going to an exercise class or doing something that you haven't done, getting your nails done, meditating, just your thought process, journaling. Find something that you can do that helps you shift your mind. All right, now we're on to gut health. We're kind of getting into the nuts and bolts. So with gut health, the important thing to know, and Hippocrates said this many moons ago, all disease begins in the gut, and it's true. There are 95% of our serotonin is produced in the gut. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter that makes us feel good and happy. So it's 95% is here in the gut, and only 5% is in the brain. So if your gut's not right, you're not feeling right. Right? 80% of our immune system is also in the gut, roughly. So our immune system also kind of helps us fight attacks. But this is why autoimmune disease exists only when the gut is impaired. So I have an autoimmune disease. In order to manage it and to stay at my optimal state, my focus is my gut. So I do a lot of gut healing, and I have a gut healing program kicking off in January that we're going to talk about later. We have 10 times more microbes in our bodies than human cells. So we're roughly 10 trillion human cells. We have 100 trillion microbes. And this is an entity, there's tons of research coming out that we need to support it's called our microbiome, to make sure that it's happy, because otherwise it gets imbalanced, and it can get imbalanced through stress, through food, through toxins. We'll go through the list in a little bit. And just from a menopausal hormonal lens, as our estrogen declines, which it does, I mean, that's natural for estrogen to decline as we get older in midlife, our digestion slows. Estrogen is functional in terms of digestion, so that's important to know. So we might need more support for digestion. How are you eating? I lecture on this a lot, so it's really important to eat in a relaxed state. Our sympathetic division of our nervous system is our fight or flight. You know, this was designed, God designed us so that we had this mechanism so that we could survive. So you're getting chased by, say, a saber-toothed tiger back in the prehistoric ages, and you needed to have fight or flight, which means that the body is diverted from digestion, meaning like pooping and peeing, and reproduction, and it diverts to the muscles, to the arms and the legs, so you can either fight or get the heck out of the way. So when we're eating in a sympathetic state, that fight or flight state, we need to understand that we're not digesting properly. So the thing to do is to focus on the parasympathetic arm of digestion of the central nervous system, which is rest and digest. So when our parasympathetic is activated, which can be activated just by a couple of deep breaths, then the nervous system brings more energy towards digestion and reproduction. So it's also called breed and feed. So it's really important how you eat. And this is why, we don't have saber-toothed tigers anymore. We have cell phones, or we have the news. And if we're eating and the news is on and there's some other ISIS attack, God forbid, and we're eating, doesn't matter if we're just consciously focusing on our salad, the body takes in that information and goes to the sympathetic if we're worried about that, whatever that stressor is. So TV off, phone away if you can, and focus on taking a few breaths before you eat so that you can get better digestion and have better hormonal balance. Here's some common digestive problems. The top ones here I just found in this image, but these are just the ones that you kind of think are obvious related to digestive issues. You can have digestive issues that don't really appear. I mean, GERD and indigestion are there as well, but if you have issues with your skin, hair, or nails, if you have aching joints, brain fog, weight issues, and poor sleep, that can all be related to poor digestion and poor gut health. And why do we have gut issues? Well, we talked about stress, and that does affect the microbiome as well. But basically, one of the big factors, it's multifactorial, but one of the big factors is overuse of antibiotics. And this is why our kids are so messed up, because they've been on antibiotics for everything, right? Ever since they were babies with ear infections. And that wrecks the microbiome. So remember what I said, how there's 10 times more microbes in our body? Well, in the digestive tract, those microbes are wiped out whenever we take antibiotics. And a lot of kids are not eating like fermented foods or taking probiotics. And so they grow up having chronic digestive issues. We talked about stress. Poor food quality is definitely another one. So if it's processed foods in a box, the body really doesn't know what to do with a lot of those ingredients. Or it could be a healthy food that you're just reactive to. So a food sensitivity. Toxins, there's toxins everywhere. We're in a toxic world. I'm going to get into that with the detox section. Also, we talked about reduced estrogen. Estrogen dominance can also affect our gut. Eating fast, we already talked about. Not sleeping, so we have poor recovery, so we don't digest well. And not moving enough. We need to move. And I'll talk about that later too. So how do we approach digestion? From a functional nutrition and medical standpoint, we look at the 4R protocol. And it's basically removing the triggers that cause inflammation in the gut, replacing your digestive fire. So that could be, I'm going to go over what those solutions might be. We repair the gut. So we want to heal the lining of the gut. And then we re-inoculate or repopulate the gut so that the microbiome is balanced again. And then my secret mindset related 5th R is reassessing, like making sure that you're always having that mindfulness into what's going on with your gut in all phases of the protocol and going on, as you finish the protocol, so that you don't mess up the gut right after. So here's some homemade and some supplement solutions to help heal the gut. One, of course, is a clean anti-inflammatory diet. So eating clean food that doesn't come in a box or package for the most part is one way that you can kind of protect your gut. Apple cider vinegar before meals is a great thing to do. It doesn't taste that great. You can dilute it in water, but it gets the digestive enzymes flowing through the pancreas. Bone broth is a great healing, gut healing, so that's good for the repair part of the protocol. And fermented foods is perfect for the reinoculation phase because there's natural probiotics in things like sauerkraut, kimchi, there's kombucha, and even yogurt, but just look for the sugar in yogurt. Make sure you get like low sugar, plain yogurt. And one of the most important things is slow and mindful eating. And then over here, we've got some digestive, some supplements like digestive enzymes and glutamine and things like GI Revive and probiotics. So here's our gut makeover. So these are things that I want you to keep in mind for your action items. So eliminating trigger foods. So if you know or suspect that you're sensitive to gluten or dairy or soy or anything else, try to eliminate it. That's part of the remove phase of the protocol. Eliminate it even just for 2 weeks and then reintroduce it and see what happens. Eat in a relaxed state. So that could just be, making sure the TV and the phones are off and away. Chewing your food thoroughly. Some practitioners and gurus are like, chew 30 times. I'm not really, I think it's kind of obsessive, but, if you can just think about chewing your food, especially protein, so that it's, gets into mush, because if it doesn't, then your body has to do a lot to break down those foods. Eat nourishing, healing foods like the bone broths and the fermented foods. Resolve your gut imbalances, again, with the fermented foods and also with the multi-strain probiotics. And join our 4-week gut makeover program in January. It's going to be here, same place, same time, every Tuesday in January, so we can get our guts healed. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so get your notes out or your worksheet and commit to at least one action you can take towards improving your gut health. And here's the list. If you can see my screen. Yes, you do need to go to Whole Foods, Teresa. Oh, Kelly, you're a pleaser and a rescuer. I'm a rescuer too, in a little ways too. All right, so on to detox and liver. So we have a toxic world, like I said before. 75,000 chemicals have been introduced into our environment, and most of them aren't tested, and most of them aren't tested together, right? But meanwhile, we're slathering on these chemical cocktails of lotions and soaps, and our furniture and beds are all like just filled and created with all these toxins. And we're breathing them in. You cannot avoid it. I mean, you can do your best to try to buy like really clean products, but it gets expensive, and it also gets pretty stressful to find all these things. You just really can't avoid it. And so that puts a burden on the liver, which has over 500 functions. And one of its main functions is obviously to detoxify. So it also produces a lot of hormones and helps to process insulin and do our reserves of glycogen for energy and that kind of thing. The xenoestrogens in plastics are something that have been introduced probably in the past, 30 years. And those are having a huge effect on our hormone balance, especially with certain populations of men. We're seeing a lot of small genitalia and man boobs. And that can come from these xenoestrogens and also from processed soy. So, and it means that we're in a toxic world, and we need to do what we can to support our liver, because those symptoms are terrible for men in terms of their confidence. But from a female standpoint, what that leads to is estrogen dominance. And the pathways for estrogen metabolism, there are three main ones, and one of them leads to cancer. So not to scare anybody, but we want to make sure that we're supporting our liver, supporting our estrogen hormone balance, supporting the gut, so that we're not feeding that cancerous pathway of estrogen metabolism. It's also important to know that you need to support both phases of detoxification. And this is where juice cleanses drive me crazy, because if you're doing a juice cleanse to detox and you don't have amino acids, a lot of vegan detoxes have this. If you don't have the right amino acids to support phase 2 detoxification, which is basically eliminating through the stool and through the skin and urine, you can end up more toxic after your juice cleanse, because the toxins just recirculate, because there's not it's called conjugation of those toxins, and amino acids are required to start that conjugation and elimination phase of detox. So really important thing to know. And think of the junk drawer with your detox as well as your gut, because you know how you organize your junk drawer? Like you spend a few hours and you get it all nice, it's perfect, and you spend like a few days, maybe even weeks, making sure that it stays nice and organized. I do this with my closet too. And then life happens, and then next thing you know, the freaking drawer is a mess again. So that's kind of what happens with our liver as well. You know, like you go on a detox, or you go on a diet, or you go on my gut healing protocol, and you're really good. And then, you know, life happens and you want to have fun. And next thing you know, you got to kind of reset. And that's why I do seasonal detoxes. It's something that I recommend when the gut is intact. So here's some liver clearing tools. Homemade is, you know, some simple little things. Warm water with lemon, dandelion, bitter greens, all the cruciferous vegetables. Beets are wonderful. What I want to stress, though, is when you're doing more of these kind of chelating and detoxification sulfur-rich foods, is to make sure that you're loading up on bone broth for those amino acids, or taking a amino acid supplement. So that you can support that phase 2 detox. On the supplement side, of course, I'm always running my Paleo Cleanse Plus every season, and we have some other supplements that are really good for detox. DIM in particular is used to detox excess estrogen, so that's really important. It's derived from cruciferous vegetables, but you'd kind of have to eat 20 pounds of these cruciferous vegetables like broccoli a day to equal 1 serving of DIM. So DIM is pretty awesome in terms of detoxing estrogen. Okay, here's our detox makeover. Avoid toxins. Easier said than done, but you know, when you run out of your cleaners, or if you're concerned, just replace your cleaners with, you know, vinegar. I like Method and 7th Generation brands, those kinds of products. I buy those, you know, and I'm not perfect. Like I tried the 7th Generation dishwashing tabs. They suck, pardon my French. So I do use Cascade, because that's the only thing that works. Otherwise, I'm running the dishwasher and washing the dishes and wasting a bunch of water. So I kind of pick my battles. When you're cleaning and household, I already talked about cleaning and household products for your cosmetics. That's really important, because that's going on your skin. I use coconut oil on everything. I use it for moisturizer. I use it to remove my makeup. And I use a lot of essential oils and Epsom salt and stuff for cleaning myself. So see what you can do. There's tons of information on the internet if you're looking for cleaner ways to, you know, for personal care. Sweating is a great way to detoxify naturally. So work up a sweat, or if you can find somebody with an infrared spa or sauna, that would be great. Stay hydrated. You have to drink water all the time. Drink more than you think. In fact, I'm going to take a sip right now. And detox with the seasons. And also, if you haven't already, you can download my free DIY detox ebook. It's like 20 pages. It's got all kinds of detox tips. And then you can always join our seasonal detox groups as well. All right, so commit to at least one action you can take towards improving detoxification. Grab your worksheet or your notes. And, you know, it might just be drinking more water with lemon, or, you know, adding herbs or more garlic to your cooking, or making a batch of bone broth this weekend. It's so easy. There's tons of bone broth YouTube videos. I might do one myself someday. So think of that and write it down. And now we're going to jump to diet. We kind of touched on a lot of this, but basically food is information, starting at the cell. And you not only have to think, again, about your human cells, you have to think of the microbes in your body. And if your body is reacting to food, it's going to do all these things. It's going to create inflammation. You could get some genetic mutations or some gene expression that's not favorable to your health. It can impair detox. It can store fat. I mean, the list is pretty long here. So the basics are to eat real whole foods, feed your microbiome. So when you're eating, think of like, what will this do with my gut? Like, yeah, I mean, I'm probably talking TMI here, but I notice if I have anything that's a little bit too sweet, that I get gassy. And I've dealt with candida in the past, and I know that that has something to do with it. So the sugar or the carbohydrates that I might consume occasionally, I'm pretty low carb most of the time, reacts to the population in my gut, and then I end up feeling gassy and bloated, and that's not a very comfortable feeling. Find your right macronutrient level. So that just basically means for carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, you want to have the right balance for you. It's unique to every person. So I'm more of a low carb person. That's how I'm able to kind of maintain balance and feel my best. But I know plenty of people that do great higher carb. So I never try to tell people they have to go low carb, but I do have them try it because we're a very carbohydrate dominant culture. So I usually encourage experimentation with your macronutrients. Eat healthy fats. We need our medium and long chain fatty acids for our hormones, for our cell balance. Every cell has a fatty acid membrane that's needed to function and to move throughout the body. And also fish oil is important for the EPA and DHEA, or DHA, which is necessary to reduce inflammation and for plenty of cellular functions. And also just know what you're eating, where it came from, how it's raised. If your meat, like let's take chicken or eggs even, if your chicken is fed, lives in a little battery cage all its life, tortured, like not able to move and beak cut off and everything, eating GMO corn and antibiotics, and it can't see the sun, that stressed out chicken is producing hormones, and those hormones, stress hormones, are in the muscle tissues of that animal, and we're eating the muscle tissues. So not only are the byproducts and toxins and metabolites from what they're fed, but also the stress that they're under gets into the meat that we then eat. So you are what your meat eats. You're also what your plants eat. So if it's like a mega compound of billions of acres of apples that are sprayed with pesticides and with depleted soil, we're not getting the nutrients in that apple that we could have if we bought an organic or even a local apple that's grown in good soil. So know what you're eating. With that lens of hormone balancing, here are the homemade and supplements that are really great for balancing hormones. I'm going to show you a seed rotation chart next, but including seeds, herbs, and spices are completely nutrient dense, wonderful for the body. Very dark chocolate is also very beneficial for the body in small amounts, not huge, but it has compounds that are like phytotherapeutic and antioxidants. We want fatty fish and walnuts for those EPAs and DHAs for the brain and for our inflammation. You can do small quantities of fermented soy. I'm not a big proponent of soy because most of it's genetically modified, but also it can be hard on the gut, and it's a phytoestrogen. So we really don't, most of us don't need more phytoestrogens. It kind of depends. So if you're a vegetarian, if you want to play around with soy, just see how you feel. And then watch or avoid too much alcohol and sugar and carbohydrates, because they fluctuate. The sugar and carbohydrates mess with your blood sugar, which messes with your gut and your hormone balance for your sex hormones. And alcohol really, it's a toxin. I love my wine, just like most of the people here, but it's toxic. So we want to take a break from it and also try to consume as little as we can. And here are the supplements. I just want to point out maca. I love maca. It's a radish family root that really helps with energy and thyroid balance and even libido. I love maca. I put it in my smoothies. I buy gelatinized maca powder from Amazon. I think it's on my Amazon store link under resources on my website if you want to know the brand I like, and just put it in it's got a little bit of a tang to it. But put it in your smoothies, and you can sprinkle it on yogurt and stuff, and it's really good, really works well. You can also look at bioidentical hormone replacement and adrenal and thyroid support, but I only recommend that with testing, because you don't want to add more to support things that, if you're not sure what you're depleted in. So I would get some testing like we talked about earlier. Here's some seed rotation. So flax and pumpkin seeds help to boost estrogen with the zinc and the fatty acids. And then sesame seeds and sunflower seeds help to boost progesterone. So if you have a normal cycle, you would start your estrogen boosting seeds at the start of your cycle, day 1 to 13, and then for day 14 to 28, you would do your progesterone. If you're not cycling like me, I just actually have them all, except for sesame seeds. I use that once in a while for cooking, but I basically just use all three all day, all day, every day, just because I like them and they are good for me. But if you wanted, you could start on the full moon and do estrogen, try to get a normal cycle there from your seeds. So here's your diet makeover. So shifting from processed food to real foods, eating fewer carbohydrates if you're not already low carb, and then find your carbohydrate tolerance level. I'll probably blog about that. So get on my newsletter if you're not on it. Sometimes you can go too low carb and then really deplete your hormones and your energy levels and your, especially your thyroid hormones. So you have to find your right tolerance level. Eat healthy fats, non-starchy veggies, quality protein. You got to get in the kitchen. Eating out, you just don't know what you're getting. Even in healthy restaurants, they're cooking with canola oil. I just went to culinary school, and this fine dining restaurant, we had to cook, and it was all canola oil, and it made me cringe because canola oil is full of omega-6, which are inflammatory. See if you can start exploring CSAs and farmers markets and even Whole Foods, and Trader Joe's has better options than, actually even some of our supermarkets have some good options too lately. So just be aware and read labels, and then shift from mindless eating to intentional nourishment. Ask yourself how the food will affect your cells, your microbiome, and your function and how you feel. So action time, commit to one action that you can take towards improving your nutrition. So there's the checklist if you want to just take a glance at it and take out your worksheet or notes. And I'm talking way too much. Okay, lifestyle, I'm kind of going to breeze through this. It's pretty self-explanatory, but obviously sleep, movement, which is exercise, which is the right exercise for you. It doesn't mean over-exercising, which I did, and that's really stressed out my adrenals. So managing your stress and your mindset, establishing your habits and behaviors, and connection. So I'm going to go through those pretty quick. So we definitely need to sleep. Sleep is where we recover, and it's how we process what we took in all day, including our emotions, but obviously our food, and we detox when we sleep. So get the cell phone away from the nightstand, TV off or out of the room. I took my TV out of the room, and just use your your bed for sleep and sex, and aim for 7 to 9 hours. Movement. I love this picture. Movement it does just that. It's exercise, but I love the word movement because just move your body. You don't need to go to a class if you don't want to. Just move your body however that feels for you. You know, you can't overdo it. I did that with CrossFit. I was exercising, doing CrossFit like 5 to 6 times a week, and I burnt out my adrenals. And so now I'm scaling back. It's hard because I'm competitive, but my body's telling me to scale back. So I do more yoga. I do more slow, low walking around my neighborhood. And you need to move. And it doesn't even matter if it's 5 minutes of just doing some stretches in the kitchen or a little bit of yoga here and there. Sometimes I just do like 15 minutes and that's it. In fact, that's what I did today, 15 minutes of yoga. Find the right balance. Mind your stress. Stress definitely leads to eating desserts or, binge eating if that's your thing, however you deal with stress. My thing, especially when I was working at the bank, was a glass of wine. I had a hard day. Where's my wine? And that helped me numb out. And I also used TV. I still use TV sometimes, but I'm very conscious of my wine consumption. Other people, it's sweets. And they use that to kind of like get through and, because they're just not processing how they feel. They're just kind of, clenching through life, getting through each, drama and trauma after another. And it's not supporting your health. To me, it's the number one thing that leads to disease. So it's with stress, you can't avoid it. It's everywhere. But one of the things I like to teach is that stress, it's going to happen, but it's how you perceive stress, and you have to feel it, right? You can't just pretend it doesn't exist, which a lot of people do, and I've done it myself. You have to feel it and then let it go. If you internalize it or don't ignore it or ignore it and suppress it, it gets stored in your body. Your body's still dealing with that emotion, just like it would a toxic piece of food or a toxic substance. A toxic thought, if it's not processed and let go, stays in your body. So it's really important to get in touch and be mindful. Ask yourself, like today, I'm very excited about the webinar, and now I'm really excited because it's going well. My technology didn't fail on me, I don't think. But I was stressed out about it, and trying to, get the technology to work was stressing me out. And I was just like checking in with myself. Okay, what am I feeling? Okay, all right, I'm stressed out. I'm worried that things are going to go wrong, but I'm doing this, and so it's going to be okay. And just kind of leaving it up to God to get me through it. Our habits and behaviors. It's desire. Why we want to change, create a habit or change a habit. It's skill. It's do we know how to do it? And it's what do we do? So to me, desire is the biggest thing, because most of us, especially when it comes to health, we know what to do and we are capable. So if we know we need to eat healthier or move our body or manage our stress, and we know what to do, I mean, there's tons of information. It's like all over the place, but we're not changing, then the why is not clear. We're not in touch with our desire to be healthier. And maybe we don't, maybe deep down, people don't want to be healthier. It's not my place to judge. But if you want to feel better and function better and be who you're supposed to be on this planet, you got to get in touch with that desire, that why, and then start doing it. So then you apply your consistent action and make those changes, whatever it is. Who's talking sex on the chat? I see that. All right. And then connection, connection to that. Oh, that's so funny. I'm connecting, and then my my chat box, I had to press reconnect. So anyway, to stillness, to that quiet place inside, whether that be God to you or spirit, or maybe it's just nature, connecting to nature, connecting to other people. is important. That's a biological fact. They've done studies with animals and babies that have been isolated and without human touch, and they don't do well. They don't survive as well in the animal studies. So we need to connect to others, and also connecting to our creativity. And that can be something like cooking a meal, or it can be like making a Christmas decoration or a wreath, or whatever. For me lately, it's like writing. And so just check in with your creativity. I know we've got some artists on the chat too, right? So photography, creating different crafts, gardening, whatever that is, you have to stay connected to that, because that either brings you to stillness or it helps you express who you really are. And if you're not sure what you're creative at, find out, like, just pay attention to what you're curious about. Elizabeth Gilbert has shared a few talks on that topic, and I love that, because it's not about like knowing your passion. Like, I knew when I was leaving the bank that I wanted to do something with nutrition. So you could say that I knew what my passion was, but really that's such a broad topic. Right now, I'm just following my curiosity. What do I want to share with people? And so you can follow your curiosity, and that can lead to your passion, or it can just lead to the next step. So, find that curiosity and spend time with it. And here's our lifestyle makeover checklist. So we want to sleep, we want to get outside, we want to move, breathe, pray, meditate, and connect with others and create. Follow your own pace in life. You don't have to follow the pace that our modern culture and society dictates. It's not cool to be busy. It's like busy is not where it's at. It's about being balanced. And shut off the news. I hate to say it, but shut off the news. It's just, there is no good that can come from the news. Sorry. That's just my opinions. I don't mean to offend anybody. All right. So commit to at least one action you can take towards improving your lifestyle. Kelly, you have a passion. T-shirts. You're following your passion. You really are. Your curiosity. And, sometimes it can be a passion can grow out of a need to do something. So like I've done that with yoga. Like I had a connection with somebody, and that led me to yoga, and I had no intention to be, a yoga teacher. Turns out I really like it. And some people like my classes. So if you asked me 5 years ago if I was going to be a yoga teacher, I'd be like, no way, I'm too stiff. But here I am. I'm a yoga teacher. So just follow your passion. Follow what shows up for you. All right. So what are our next steps? So if you've been taking notes, working with the worksheet, just take some time after this call to kind of reflect on what you jotted down during this hour, and maybe prioritize, or maybe try to integrate everything. Is there a common thread? Is there something that's calling out to you? You can share it here if you want, but just take some time after this call to reflect. What are your next steps? And like I mentioned, we've got our January 5th kickoff of the 4R Gut Healing Protocol. It's going to be right here. I might actually have a phone line so that we could actually talk, because this chat is kind of hard to type, and it's hard for me to read while I'm talking. So basically what we're going to do is each week we're going to go through the 4R protocol that I talked about. I'm going to give you all the support you need. You're going to commit to some actions every week, and then we're going to regroup for 4 weeks, and we're going to walk through that protocol. And what you're going to find is that you'll identify some triggers, maybe some food sensitivities. You're going to improve your digestion. Some of you, if you need to, you might lose a little bit of weight, but basically you're going to feel a whole lot better. When I put this together, I was like, okay, that's 4 hours. What should I charge? And after this January session, my rate for this program is going to be $197 until it gets huge, which I'm sure it will. Yeah. But for you guys, I want it to be affordable, and it's $97, so that's more than 50% off. And you're going to have access to me. You can pick my brain, go through this program. You're going to know exactly what you need to be doing. We can talk about not only the 4-hour protocol, but any other related health issues, because like we said, everything is related to the gut. So we'll meet here Tuesday in January, starting with January 5th. And I'll have more information coming to you on that in follow-up emails. So it's question time. Any questions? It's 8:01. You are in, Michelle. Awesome. Yeah, Therese, music is such a great way of feeling connected. Absolutely. Yash is going to make a Christmas wreath. Yeah, Sandy, you are totally nature. Teresa needs a boyfriend. I'm just scrolling through. Any questions? Anything that I covered, I know I went really fast, that you're confused about, or that doesn't make sense, or that you want to know more about? If anybody's typing, that's fine. If you don't have questions, that's totally fine too. While we close, I just wanted to point you to some resources. One is my website, nourishpath.com. Go there, get my free detox booklet. Again, it's got 20 pages of it's got some recipes, it's got some detox strategies. It's all gut supportive. I still recommend the gut healing program before you do a more rigorous detox. But go there, get that. And I've got a bunch of newsletters with recipes that you can scroll through as well. I have a supplement store. I have a resource store on Amazon. There's a link for our yoga retreats, which I didn't talk about, and that's with this company that I'm affiliated with. So this might be a nice little thing for girlfriends, and that's where we'll come to you and do a yoga retreat for 2 days or 1 day if we want to. We can cut it down to 1 day. Basically, we teach gentle yoga in your home. You have to gather at least 6 people, and you get a percentage of the income. It's about $100 a person for 2 days. We cook, we talk yoga, we do some deep exploration for 2 days from 10 to 3 at your home or office. So if anybody's interested in that, there's a yoga retreat tab on my website. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Sign up for my newsletter. I usually post new newsletters with recipes every month. And also, if you'd like, you can take advantage of a free 15-minute consult with me. Just go to the Work With Me tab on my website. One-on-one weekly with you. I'm out of control. Oh, we'll talk. All right. Absolutely, guys. Ladies, I should say. All right. Well, that concludes our webinar. Any questions? Gone. All right. I just want to thank you all for being here. I really enjoyed this. If you have any questions afterward, feel free to shoot me an email or whatever. Contact me. And you'll look for some emails from me about the gut healing protocol. I want to wish everybody a really Merry Christmas if you celebrate, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever. And just want to wish you all blessings and peace and balanced hormones. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. Is that it? All right, cool. Thanks, guys.